No problem. I'm learning from the show and I'm part of the show, so I'm going with the flow of the show. But it's
Yeah.
good to be here.
Well,
Very interesting show tonight. Coming at a very critical time, national affairs and the psyche of the country.
yes, and I know you would have a whole lot to say on this topic here. And I was supposed to bring in Abraham Millington as well. We're going to have to change course tonight, Abraham. I didn't forget you. Was having some challenges. Okay, so please bear with me tonight. But I have so this young man here, Mr. Murray. Do you have any a quick comment on him and the situation? I know you probably would have seen the video, etc.
Yeah, I've seen the video and I've heard the comments, but um, I think most people have said a lot of things that I would have probably said and thought. So there's no extremely different perspective I'd like to uh, bring to, except to say that the question that both you and Maxine agree on about the rain and the resulting of our males. In the same way that when I hear about educational transformation, I laugh, or educational transformation, it's called, the latest version. I laugh at because you're jumping on all these big fancy titles and then dealing with the basic. How can you talk about educational transformation unless you talk about literacy and numeracy? They can't code or whatever that you are encouraged if they can't read or write. So we all have to go, that's one of the basic. Into society, there has to be, in this actual, um, saying that the extended family is no longer existing in the way we knew it and we'd grown up. There has to be formally provide a way of inculcating and exposing parents, both male and parents, to the rudiments of proper parenting on all the facets, on what to look for, different stages of development, what you're supposed to do. It will not happen spontaneously. It is like we used to want to believe that all our cricketers were natural and they just played cricket.
Mm-hmm.
So birds were those, but the world has changed, and the world that we are, he said, a protected type at that time, you cannot expect it at the time. That's why you have academy and coaches and batting coaches, because a different era, different perspectives, and we have to do the same thing about our children. Consciously apply that everything has to be a study. There's a science about almost everything we do in life. Human behavior is all buttressed by various aspects and types of sense. We have to apply these things.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we just papering over the cracks. We have to
Yeah.
go always to the fundamental, always to the basic. And once you get the basics right, you improve your chances tremendously of getting the final outcome right also.
Yes. Who was hurt? Mr. Murray.
Yes, thank you. Um, I'm going to make a shift in what I was focused on tonight because of this, what seems to be a proliferation of stabbings in Barbados. And I'd like to open people's eyes, those who would not have younger than me, Maxine, just to give a little social history about weapons used in Barbados. Now they're talking about guns and the big guns and how destructive the guns are. There was a time when stabbing, a knife, a scissors, various parts, a pen knife, a ratchet knife. There was something known as a billfish beak,
Hmm.
where people would get the beak of a billfish and sharpen it to maybe make punctures. There was something known as a grain. Again, a grain was something which fellows who go diving fish will shoot and capture the fish. So all these at that time, scissors were particularly um, available and used by women who would at times carry them in their bags or their brassieres. Okay, and those were the weapons of choice in Barbados in the 50s, 60s, 70s, long before the guns. These were the murders were largely committed. I suspect what is happening now. I have no empirical evidence, but just because of my knowledge of these fields and the way I've observed these behaviors, is that I think because of the heat and the public controversy and attention, being applied to guns, that people on the street or people in Barbados who have a sense of whatever reason it's of danger and they need protection might have therefore resorted to, because the heat is on guns and the sentences and the fines for guns are much more severe than knives or whatnot. Although I think there was a time when, under circumstances, you could be charged or even just having possession of your knife. And when I look at England, because of the control of the guns, the same thing is happening in almost every week in England. You can hear people being stabbed to death, stabbed, arrested. So I'm saying that maybe persons who think they need weapons have adjusted from guns to these weapons, which a knife or ice pick or scissors are more easily concealed. Then again, and if
Yeah.
you're caught with them, the penalties. So I'm saying we might have therefore seen a shift in the choice of weapons being used by society to deal with conflict or what they perceive of conflict, or to represent themselves or defend themselves, or if they think they might be attacked or what. So I am saying that this is something which I thought we should, and not that people are necessarily wicked, but that for whatever reason, like I said, like you said, you can't judge. You don't know what circumstances people.
Right.
Right. This is the easy way to go. It's cheaper to buy a knife, I suspect, or scissors, or ice pick, than to buy a gun or rent a gun or whatever you do with guns these days. So I thought that that might be useful. Um, um, Because sometimes I was told, for example, that we call that the use of this of the cutlass in one of those instances was just because that was the tool that was being used to cut the coconuts to sell. So that not that necessary to anybody, but it was available because that's part of the trade, part of their business.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these things have much more deeper social significance than we might at first think. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, no, no. You're correct. And you know, I saw a comment in the there. I just want to say, Mr. Murray, and Maxine, Miss McLean, I'm a little confused tonight, and everybody else, that, you know, we talk about, we were there focusing on all these guns, 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 and then all of a sudden we had all these knives attacked, right? So that there's an issue of anger, really, which is beyond, it doesn't matter the weapon, right? But I also want to say that the other young man, and which I know that those who are watching know his name, that was hurt in that situation of BCC, in order to bring some balance to it, my understanding is that that young man is not out of the woods. And so here it is, we are mourning for two young men. You know, we're mourning two young men. We're mourning the one on the street. The one was in the pool of blood. We're knives, guns, whatever tool that we're finding, we're mourning them. There is that young man who is
But
there now, with a stab wound, and hopefully he'll be able to move around and be normal and finish his education and live his life, and so he's also hurting. So here it is. The anger is causing us, Mr. Murray, to take whatever it is that we find at the moment. We get angry, and whatever we find at the moment, we think focusing on gun, and then it turned to knife, and it turned to cutlass, and we don't know what else it might we might get
yeah,
to.
but if I may add to another angle on this issue, I listened to probably about three-quarters of the brass tacks program today, which dealt with state of Barbados, crime and violence and the economy, etc. They involved Minister Kirk Humphrey, along with Guy Hewitt, who's Don Vallinis. I didn't hear the entire program because when I got back, the last 5 minutes, but it bothered me because I know Minister Humphrey is a trained social worker, had a lot of training experience, worked in the field. I listened to him today, and it was largely an academic performance. I don't know if you listen, Maxine. I am not. He was very reliant on the studies he's done, what he did, working for this body and that. But I mean, he's still young in the ministry, so to speak. But I have not yet heard any of him that gives me any sense of a policy being developed to deal with what because he's no minister of crime prevention. But even as a minister of crime prevention, he's speaking as though he's a social worker. I'm not sure I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm sure he seems to grasp the nuances and the aligned imperatives and forces that are at work that will change your approach. Okay, it is like, I'm going to say this too, it's like listening to Minister Charles Griffith, who spent most of his time, most of his working life in community development. When you listen to him, he said he's still to me a community development officer. I do not detect any conceptual, and you need concept. You cannot just be an administrator, though. You have to be able to, you only develop policies and programs out of concepts, out of ideas. And therefore, so when I hear him, I still think of him as being in community development. I'm not saying raising his intellect and his input where there are any policies that he or initiatives or proposals that he might take to his office. Well, let's do this, let's do that. And the same thing, like I said, I know it's still early days yet for Minister Humphrey, but I think that I was hoping that by now he would have switched focus, switch gears, switch approach, and begin to give me some ideas of what he is likely to come with to help change the situation. And it's not just to be more of the same, otherwise you end with the same results, the same feeling. So I'm still have a question mark because I'm not, like I said, for the third time, you had the inkling yet that anything is about to change, and that bothers. Let me add this, whether people, so that people don't think I'm bashing or attacking Mr. Humphrey, because I know himself from experience. He's very sensitive about what you critique his performance or his statements. He comes on very authoritatively. I don't know if you remember Marcia a year or so ago when he was on this show, calling when there was a clash between Kimar Safri and our Kimar.
Not this show. It was on Kimar's show.
Sorry, right.
Kimar's show,
Yes. Yeah, oh, you're right. Sorry, but
that's right.
He was very sensitive and he gets very upset when you challenge him. That's why he was so upset when the leader of the opposition challenged him and he said, "You can't lecture me about anything." He has to be come off of that, and I'm saying that because I was in cabinet also. Haven't gotten into cabinet. I'm going to get my experience so that I know how I perform, I was expected to perform, and therefore what he needs to do or could do. I was just open his eyes to everything. We got into office. I was appointed, sworn in, etc. He had to settle in the first couple of days, and all the prime minister told me, Senator Murray, you have our manifesto. You know what our policies are. You have your responsibilities. Get to work. And left to me. So I could not then work on my public servant. I had to go in and grapple and start to formulate priorities because I had to take the initiative. And I had to therefore start giving them ideas, concepts about what we wanted to accelerate the various spheres. So I'm saying that we need to get more of that out of not only him, but there's some of these the longer standing ones who still are in that non-idea phase, and they're still not bringing to the table yet the kind of output that we had come over the years to expect of our political leaders and operators. In the same way we come to expect excellence on a certain level from Garfield Sobers and cricket and Westfall and so Frank Ward, etc. We thought we'd always had a tradition of these performers at the political level. But I'm afraid, based on all my experience, I've not seen that quality of intellect and output and effort and ideas and commitment and drive and that we've been accustomed to.
My guess my question is, Mr. Maurice, where do we go from here as a nation? It feels like it's a lot of mourning.
Like in education, it has to start in the home. In the home, people have to have a sense of right and wrong. It's part of that discipline from there. I raised having done sociology and psychology and all that in my younger days. Okay. When I got children, I from the very first couple of days, weeks, they knew yes and no. Because of you have to teach them yes and no, like right and wrong, do or don't do, and that discipline has to be instilled from the parents, the parents, rather as through the parent or as the grandparenting or the aunt parent or the uncle parenting or whatever. It has to start from there, and they have to. From the studies have shown that by the age of 3, a child's personality is basically formed, and if you don't teach respect for authority, yes or no, don't do. You're not supposed to, right? Reward and punishment. If by the time a child gets to nursery school, primary school, it's all over. These teachers are not trained, they're not expected, they shouldn't be expected how to teach them, how to shape their sense of discipline. And a lot of it boils down to discipline. Discipline is not only do or don't do. Discipline, so being on time, being tidy, your shoes are clean, your fingernails are clean, you write well, you keep the surroundings. All that is discipline. It's not just hairstyles and backpacks. It is the discipline of their life, the do's and the limits that there are in every sphere of life that have to be taught from the very beginning, so they get accustomed to it, and not that they don't. Because otherwise, while children are there observing their surroundings and the adults, and they're absorbing, they're recording, and then if they don't, otherwise they would then imitate and reproduce what they saw.
Yeah. The police, it doesn't matter to them. It's like there's no deterrent. There's nothing to stop them.
Marcia, you hit on a very important point. And based on in the Prime Minister's office, I also had to deal with some security matters from time to time. I remember I went to a security conference in the Caribbean people in Antigua. So I was relaxing lunch and talking, and this fellow from Jamaica said, "My page, what are you all doing in Barbados, these criminals?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I keep reading that you would have they would attack you, you'd be shooting, and then they would get injured, and then you take them to the hospital to recover." He said, "No. What we do, you put them in the car, you drive around till they're dead, then you take them to the hospital to be pronounced dead. So you don't have to. You only deal with them once, not twice. When you let them get away." And I think so that's the point I'm saying. And part of the problem from my information is that, and also arising out of that, these Good Friday phone call incident, the police from my OFB don't think that they have the full support of the authorities, and they do not have the freedom to do what they want to do because people are protected, they're cosseted, they're special, and they are not. In other words, they're not given the full onslaught and pushback in the language and in the method that would push the criminal element on the back, because the criminal they have businesses to operate, things to do, and unless they're disrupted or whatever, they would just be business as usual. You make it more comfortable. So therefore, and what I do not quite understand. I remember the days of Aviston Prescott, Springer, the commissioner. I remember Grandy Watson. I remember the Durant. Those men were full commissioners that came to Barbados from Toronto and spoke for themselves and the police force. There were right now saying that there were
Yes.
They, at one time, I think George said his hands were tight, but they were able to speak and articulate and shape public opinion so you get to understand what's going on. I
Because
don't get
they
the
were
same
able to
impression.
exercise the true independence that they're supposed to have
Precisely. The
as
only
members
people
of
the
the
police should report,
police force.
Marcia, I think you're confident. The only people the police should report to the commission's reporter
Precisely.
is the president. Nobody else should
And
dictate
this is
what they want to do.
this is part of the challenge, because when you look at, and I go back to the Good Friday example, what better, or what worse way, I call it the worst way to do it, or what a way to demoralize and to interfere with, I mean, because when you do that, you are diminishing, that's the word I want also, apart from the demoralizing, impacting morale, you're diminishing the authority of the police. They're supposed to have a job to do. They're part of our system. Let the people do their job, and and so on. But when you do that, you are enabling certain kinds of negative behaviors,
But Martin, you cannot have parallel authorities.
All right, that's a good way, and I like that expression.
You see, there are these little things that don't, if they're not
Nipped in the
recognizing
bud.
that way.
Stop.
Did the phone call come? How long with the phone call? The phone call came, it was during COVID for the phone call, right?
Yes.
Okay. But there was another incident where there was something happening on some day, and a restaurant in the same area was open.
Right.
And had to shut down.
Things were supposed to be closed.
Okay.
The same, not the same way that
yeah,
Marcia's
but after that, there was an announcement that the Red Sea government.
Oh yes.
The Red Sea government
that
apologized to the Mayor Martin government for being open the restaurant that day.
Yes.
The Red Sea government. Do you see how they are perceiving themselves? An equal and opposite force? So when you have, if you have that thinking, if they operate as though that is what it is, they're two parallel operations, you're looking for trouble. It would demoralize, it would affect how people think they're allowed to do the work, because they're not said it.
He's a very productive young man, but in terms of being a man, it takes a man to definitely raise a man. And you need that in your household, or you need either a role model or some kind of male figure within that boy's life for him really to be the man he's supposed to be.
That's because children are always testing their parents.
That's true.
Testing their limits. I learned that from my children. Because, like I said, because of my background in psychology, a child will be in the cradle crying, well fed, it's not wet, but they want attention at hand. And if you cry, they know they work out quite early that if they cry 10 times, if you keep thinking, they will cry 10 times to get their attention. If you go past 11, 12, they'll shut up. They're testing your limits. They're testing, so you have to expose them to limits of behavior, right and wrong, those basic things. So that another thing I taught my children within days, weeks old, when they say no, when they want me to pick up, I take their finger and hit them. No.
You are abusing that child. You abuse the child.
They associate that little tap on the finger with no. I don't approve. No problem.
Well, Mr. Murray, the police need to go. No. Because you know why, guys? Let me say this quick before Zico get in something there. You know why? I say this to my sons all the time, and my husband will tell them, listen, if we don't discipline you, the police is going to do it. Somebody in life is going to discipline. Discipline does not necessarily mean all the time you're going to go like this, right? Sometimes you're going to go like this, or sometimes you're going to look. Sometimes
I had to do that only once to each of them, once. The rest, I met my daughter to take she came home from school. She's much younger. She was born in the 80s. She has rights. I have the rights.
Yes.
I said, listen,
Responsibility.
these are the rights you have. You have a right to go to school, behave well, do your work, and come home and be able to say, otherwise, I'm the dictator. There's no democracy in here. I am a dictator. And no problem. Again, limits were laid down. And they
Yes.
understand that. That's what you have to do. But
Yeah,
see what you want, you have to disrupt the criminal element. Put force, put pressure. Otherwise, but don't forget, we saw a progression. There was a phone call, there was a declaration of an alternative government, and then you hear people negotiating and reward negotiating.
Wow, yes, very well said. Very well said, caller. Go ahead, Mr. Murray.
Yeah. Marcia, do you remember how long ago the Prime Minister announced the formation of a serious crime and anti-gang unit with technical assistance for the British government, etc.?
Yes, I
There is
remember
nothing I've seen or heard since then that is in place and functioning and doing anything. It is more and more of the same. And Zico's making the point. But if you look bit by bit, the authority, the respect, the fear of the policeman has been eroded. There was a time, if you've all seen videos where police get out a raid, going in a neighborhood to arrest somebody, and the residents, the women especially, up in the police face and curse them, one point, one snap them. That should not be allowed. When they go to drive fair and push. Otherwise, I'm surprised that somebody's not gotten hurt yet in one of those raids. Because it is. I remember growing up, the police uniform to them was
Good night, caller. Just hang on. Just give us 1 second, please. So just complete your point, Mr. Murray.
Yeah, I'm saying, but once that, and let me make the point. People might not want to agree with this, but I've heard the deputy, the chief, the acting director talking about the prevalence of marijuana. You remember? You're supposed less than 15 grams.
Something like that.
It's permissible. But I've got places to see men smoking right next to policemen. You don't know if you got 15 or 55, but they have so lost fear of. They've normalized it now to smoke marijuana anywhere. That's all of that. Nobody says, well, if I get caught, I mean, you check this. No, we just doing it because that's the thing to do. And you have to bring back fear and start the limitations.
A problem. And so, sorry, Glyne, you want to say something?
Yeah, good point, Maxine, because I heard the Minister of Tourism said last week that they had spent, the port itself had spent $25 million on improving the security. So, but he did not say that's certainly cannot, for scanners, etc., did not cover unopened containers. But I think we are touching on a point which that you have to understand this. I've said it on the show a number of times. Crime is the best organized business in the world. The biggest and best organized, but that is why that will help answer the questions, how are these things getting here? Because it's so well entrenched, so well organized that people are able to get by in the system because people are part of the system. That is why you have never been able to eradicate crime from any society.
Straight off.
So that's part of the high organization. And you're talking about Zico, you're right, because sometimes what they do, they would deliberately sacrifice a person or two with drugs. They get caught because with Vibes Cartel coming, drugs gotta come in for the show.
Thank you. So I give you 2-3 little men to get hold of the little guy.
Yeah. And you go for them, you feel it, but the big guy coming in. It's part of the high organization of international crime. It's the highest, best, biggest business in the world. Remember that. I never may go back to a different position where we were talking about children at home. In raising or in any organization, they have to be people with certain status, certain roles, certain duties, certain responsibilities. If each person knows and respect and fulfill their responsibilities, their roles, their duties, etc., no problem. It's when people don't know or they care for or do not care about their duties that you have problems. That is why it is important to let the children know the mother the fact that there's a hierarchy, there are figures of authority. You have to cooperate or respect, or you pay the price.
Man, we go sit down and talk. You go come a company block and talk to me. No. That's the wrong message.
You're making
We're looking
fundamental
for
point
having
lecture.
conversations with those who are uplifting their community, those who, and then from there, you got a positive outlook.
I know a few politicians who have old years themselves refuse to deal with men on the block. Just don't take them on. And there are others who will come and say, okay, I got 40 men. These are 40 ID cards, a hiring per card, and then negotiate election. I mean, that is commonplace in Barbados. Commonplace.
But
You,
we're not
you
going
work
to
for a price per vote.
look at that. Look at that. And then
That is a
there
fact.
are, Mr. Murray, I have spoken to several persons, right? Persons who are young men, because with our ministry we work with young men of the blocks and so on, and they will tell me there is a certain leader in this country that have a godson, and everybody know when I say this, those who are in the communities, they know this is what I'm saying. If I'm out on the streets and I know there is a certain leader in this country that have a godson. Okay, I could tell you the gang the godson is associated with. Okay, and that godson is involved in bringing in a lot of the weapons and ammunition in this country. And every time I sat in even today, somebody it's been confirmed all over. Are you going to tell me that the police doesn't know this? The attorney general doesn't know it? The Kirk Humphreys and all of those that deal with crime, they don't know this? And that person is related, connected to someone in a high standing in government? We can't. The point is this, that we've got to, the citizens we've got to demand something of these people. We are paying them.
Marcia, it is further complicated the fact that nobody has been saying it publicly, but except remember there was an incident in the city with somebody getting beaten up or died. Remember? Somebody from Kensington New Road or one of those streets.
Oh yes.
Remember that?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah. This fellow was supposed to be in a home. He said he was supposed to be homeless.
That's the guy who died?
He was supposed to be home. He died. He was homeless, but he had an address.
Oh, yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
You remember the stories here about certain groups.
Correct.
Certain ethnic groups related and involved in that.
Yes, sir.
Whatever became of that story?
Not
so it is not as straightforward. There are wheels within wheels, because it's business, it is money at stake, and therefore we have to take a more realistic, hard look at these things. Because in any crime situation, the big bosses are always insulated from the action on the ground. That is why it's so difficult. It takes so many years to catch a big drug dealer in the States, and so they have to catch them on a charge with income tax or something, or prosecution, rather than the charge, because they insulate the hair, the less you will get, but your people carry the instruction and control the ministry. So we have to open our eyes to what is going on the streets of Barbados, in the city and other areas where people are involved in activity, but we don't seem to understand what's going on.
What we can conclude is that there has to be short-term, medium, and long-term solutions.
Very good point. But go ahead, Mr. Murray.
Yeah, my probably final point would be that.
It's 10 o'clock.
the focus, quite understandably, is normally on the police.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to remember that there are other agencies involved in this whole crime detection and
security.
controlling.
Yeah.
What about customs?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's often a tug of war between the two agencies. Who has to find an attorney? And you cannot expect just the police to be pristine, clean, and like virgins, untouched, when other agencies might not be that clean, because they're all involved in the network. So we have to take a radical, hard-headed look at every particular participant, person, or agency involved in the process, and make sure that they are brought to book wherever possible to maintain the good order and governance of the land. So we have to be really frank. Like for years they've been talking about cameras at the airport, cameras and customs at the airport. Has this ever been done? If so, why not? What is so difficult?
So that's all they got to say on
Wow. Yes, but go ahead, Mr. Murray. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Your final word?
I just want to say, I think we have not been paying we've only made passing mention of a very major element in this whole configuration of crime. The involvement, the participation, the activity of females. See, we have to look just now. It's not it's the men seem to be the foot soldiers, the men who go up front, but there is a role, and you've heard me talk in the past about hybristophilia, where women particularly are fascinated by crime and criminal network, the power, the money. We have to, that also operates, I don't know if Chico, I might be able to tell some of that another time, but that's something we should look at. What is the role and response of females, whether it be girlfriends, wives, aunts, mothers, grandmothers, or what? There is a role of females that we have to look at. Otherwise, we'll be only attacking one part of the problem and leave another major element unexplored, ununderstood, and probably misunderstood too.
At 18, he's only.
Listen. I was hoping because just a quick remark here.
When I see it in its full splendor.
Chabagat Spoon said you have to have a certain level of clothes. You had your good clothes,
yes,
evening clothes, and the home clothes. I said you also my good clothes. The good clothes, the home clothes is when you're around the house playing. The evening clothes when you bathe upon the evening, go down the gap or play with the balls. And the good clothes when you go to the doctor or the hospital or go to town. So I put on some of my good clothes tonight. And I hope
and it has the colors I like too. But I was focusing on Zika's shirt. Sorry. I was
again, all credit to my wardrobe manager.
yes.